All right, Kristie, thank you
Yes.
so much for coming.
Thank you.
Do you know
for
why
having
we are
me.
here?
No idea.
Okay, so this is also Redhill's 10th year anniversary.
Ah.
So we want to do a lot of things, but I thought one of the things we'll do is have a series of podcasts where we talk to journalists and influencers because that's like bread and butter of what we do.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that often misunderstood about PR is what is it that we do. And,
But like people misunderstand.
yeah, because usually people think it's just sending out press releases, following up on getting something printed. I thought this kind of a series would be something good in terms of giving more depth to who we are and the kind of work that we do. And I know you and we've been known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And
5.5 years actually.
5.5. Oh, you
Yes.
keep count.
Yeah.
That's good, yeah.
Because it is how long I've been in DSA. So.
Yeah. But it's been a great journey because you've seen me during my alcoholic days.
Yes.
And you've seen me during my sober days.
Now I'm the alcohol.
But I was quite worried. Now you've switched. yeah. I was alcoholic and you were the runner.
I'm still running though. I'm still running.
But one of the things I was worried about when I stopped drinking was that will I be as fun in terms of conversations?
Oh, really? So you're putting this to the test.
Yeah,
right?
but it's good. I mean, it's been more than a couple of years since I stopped now. And we still have, catch up and have the same kind of crazy conversations and things. And that's been a good encouragement in doing these kind of things. So, yeah, I couldn't think of anybody better to kick this off with. I don't know if this is going to be a thing, but it could be the first episode and that's it. Because I think the team has overdone the setup and things. I thought I will do some kind of a simple setup that can be done anywhere and can be, shot on my phone and things. But now with like 2 cameras and 3 people in a room, and it is quite. Let's see. Maybe the first episode will give people this impression that it's going to be this quality all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. How else have you been?
It's been fun so far. So like I think I got to know Redhill 5.5 years ago actually when I joined DealStreetAsia. So for background to you guys, so DealStreetAsia is majority owned by Nikkei, as you would know. We cover
I'm the first investor in.
You were an early investor, yes.
No, not early. First.
Okay, first. And we cover private equity and venture capital in Southeast Asia. Now we are like pretty much very Asian, so APAC from India all the way to Greater China, and we are in Southeast Asia, obviously. So I think our company started around the same time that Redhill started.
Yeah,
so
we have
actually
the
we're
same
also 10 years
office,
old. Yeah, 10 years old also. So I think you actually had a longer journey of just kind of like watching the company grow. And I've also been reflecting about my time in DSA. So even though I've been here for 5.5 years, so I actually joined right at the middle mark, whereas you started from the very beginning, like the 0 to 1 journey, right? Like not really seeing much. So yeah, it's been interesting to just kind of think about like, wow, like how much we've grown. And I'm sure I'm same for you as well. Like I think Redhill has grown a lot even during the time that I've known you guys.
Yeah. Right? But some things haven't changed. Like this sofa has been there since the beginning. Yeah.
I think this was the sofa you had one of your drunken nights.
Yeah, we had it in our board key office.
Yeah.
This room is named after. We had it in our Neil, where you've seen me.
Your first office.
Yeah, and second office in Neil Road.
Okay.
And then now it's here.
Yeah.
In the thing. So, yeah, a lot of the things have come with us through our journey.
Yeah.
But I think 10 years is a mark where a lot of things have changed.
Did you think that you would have approached Redhill differently, like when you started Redhill, and then now, like 10 years later? I'm sure you had a certain image in your mind, like what you thought Redhill was going to be.
Yeah.
Do you think it's very different from what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
When you started?
Yeah.
Like how, like if you could share.
So whenever you start as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not just as an entrepreneur, but in life. I mean, I have a huge issue with anxiety. I think I had it from childhood. I used to always have my fist like this, even growing up. I used to I grind my teeth at night. And all these anxiety things were there, and that's I think one of the reasons why I took up to drinking, because it used to calm me down, but it's a vicious cycle. And when I started Redhill, obviously you have all these ambitions, you want to be this, and that's the thing that keeps you going. But in the short term, there's always like, oh my God, you're going to do this. I mean, I have great. It's a collection of failures and mistakes, and then it's like that black swan moment that every quarter or something happens that, and that black swan moment is a result of many small things that you do right, which you don't see. For some reason, your brain only captures all the mess ups that you do.
Okay.
And then you reflect on it and things like that. But wherever I am right now, I'm very happy in terms of how the company has grown and how things are in different markets. And, I just went to Australia, and I'm most particularly proud of like the 1-person offices we have. Like in New York City, next to
office.
And we work there. There's like one person sitting in New York. Rowena is sitting there. And they would do we have different people in different cities in the US, and they all work together and they work with different teams. But it takes a lot of motivation for that one person to get up every day morning, travel from Long Island to, Times Square, and do all the work and things. So where we are, I'm quite happy. I wouldn't have thought that we would be this big 10 years ago. I wanted us to be successful. I wanted us to be recognized in the region as a major player. I think those parameters we already struck. I mean, I think last year onwards, we stopped going for any awards. Because when I started, I remember telling this to Eleanor, who was running Umbrella Asia. There's only one award I want to get. I want to get Provoke's award for Best Southeast Asia Agency.
Okay.
And 2 years ago, we got it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's the only award I wanted.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be on the Provoke list of global agencies. That's it. We did both that last year.
Okay.
And now I'm like, why be in that treadmill that we have to win it every year?
Yeah.
It's not. It takes away from what we do for our clients.
So how many offices do you guys have now?
I think around 20, 21.
That's like cities or?
Cities.
Cities, yeah, okay. And then countries-wise, how many?
I think it'll be 18 countries.
Wow.
18 around there.
Wow.
We have 13 legal subsidiaries.
Yeah.
And then we have people spread out.
But in my mind, like PR sounds like a very kind of localized industry, right? Like you really have to kind of have a very strong and deep network. Like for a 1-person team, that sounds pretty rough to try to take on. I guess in the beginning it has to be 1 or 2 people. Yeah. But like, when did you start kind of like scaling to become like a multi-market kind of office? Because I guess in the beginning phase, you really need to kind of like dig deep into your local presence and really build a brand for yourself. Because PR, I would imagine, like takes a lot of work to really kind of build those relationships.
Yeah, it does. I could have had the choice of being a Singapore-centric deep agency here. For that, I would have needed Singaporean clients whose market would be Singapore. We don't have those. It's very rare, very, very few. Unless you win some government work. But you need to be a certain size to win a government work. So most of the requests for proposals would be things which are regional work. So Southeast Asia, APAC, things like that. And if you want to win those businesses, you have to be in every market. So our first office was in Malaysia. Then we set up a small presence in Jakarta. Then, split around this thing. Just have that placeholder or the first thing in these places. And then we started building up our business, saying that, okay, we can service these markets. We can, do these things. So once we had that, and then, when we need an APAC kind of thing, they want to see all the markets where you are. It doesn't matter if you have just 1 person, 3 person, or 5 person there. It's like how much. It's not the size of the dog, but in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog kind of situation.
Okay.
So we punched above our weight. So like most of my gray hair is by opening an office in Japan.
I don't see any gray.
It's there. It's just combed. So those kind of markets are really tough. But once you get that,
which market was tough?
Japan.
Japan. Oh.
Japan was very tough, but we are quite good there now.
Okay.
I think once you've done that, it gives you confidence. And then, we are a people's business. So when you have people who are dedicated and committed, it makes a big difference.
Mm.
And that's the other thing. Like this month onwards, we are rolling out our employee stock ownership. Yeah, 10th year kickoff is going to be with that. Yeah.
Wow.
So and for a long time, people have asked like, "Oh, you guys don't give 13-month salary, you don't give bonus."
Yeah.
And I think nothing beats ownership.
Yeah.
And especially from a Singaporean SME point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who have worked with us for 6 years, 7 years, right from the beginning.
Wow.
And I think, everything is signed off, so people will have some.
Wow,
ownership.
this is huge.
Yeah, so it's I think a lot more companies have to start doing this. I think all this new work culture thing, work from home, accountability, all that can be solved with more involvement in ownership by the
team.
Yeah. Especially we are a professional services firm, so makes a big difference.
So what's going to be in the next 10 years of Redhill then?
I don't know. I'm 45 this year. I don't think it's a good idea for me to stick around for another 10 years.
Okay.
So
leadership succession.
Yeah, we've got a good succession. We've got Belinda, who's the agency that we acquired last year. She's built that agency up for over 20 years in Hong Kong, 25 years I think. But and it's good. And then that partnership between both our firms have really helped us grow in Hong Kong and in China. We call it Greater China. And we have Manisha, who's joined us as group president. So she's kicking up, putting in systems and things. So yeah, it's our next phase of growth is going to be more of M&A, more strategic work. It's a lot of people think PR from just the media relations point of view, sending press releases. I can tell you right now, Kristie, I get more money paid to me for stopping stories.
Oh, really?
For lesser publicity.
Thanks to me.
Yeah.
And some of my colleagues. But
yeah. So we get paid more to stay out of the media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you go, I think it's
protecting reputation.
Yeah. I would say go less for promotion.
Yeah.
And more for attraction.
Yeah.
So that should be the philosophy.
That's interesting.
Behind this.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. Yeah. I mean, most of your clients, I guess, the people who come to you for these sort of things, they're mostly in Asia, right?
Yeah. Okay. I think a lot are in Asia, India, Middle East.
Do you think they're thinking differently about what it means to build brands, like, good brands that are reputable but also trusted? Do you think, have you seen some sort of evolution in the way they think about it? Because sometimes people tend to, it can be very crass the way that people want to do it. Yeah. I don't want to name
let's not take names. This
markets.
Truly will be a one episode series.
But sometimes people think if I splash a whole bunch of logos or something, and that's one way to build credibility or brand trust, in a broader public. But I don't know if you've seen that kind of association or relationship, kind of evolve, or understanding even evolve among clients here.
I think it's not an Asia thing.
Yeah.
But general theme, a lot of the storytelling by brands has always, they try to put some kind of a underdog story, or a sob story, or all these things. And I don't understand why they have to feel like they have to say that story.
Okay.
Against all the odds and this and that and all.
Yeah.
It's I don't see it, but in Asia, what is peculiar is also that we pay too much attention. We have too thin skin.
Okay.
About and then we also have this issue that we think in India we have a saying, world famous in India. So they think that anything that comes in like a Western media or
a bit post-colonialist kind of.
Yeah, that is there.
Okay.
And that is something that needs to change. I mean, I was just last week speaking to University of Queensland, and they have a master's program in communication, and 90% of the in Brisbane,
Yeah.
in the campus, 90% of the students are from China.
What?
Yeah. And I was asking them, so what newspaper do you read? What do you know this thing? And I was telling them, China is such a great country, so much, so much growth, this, all technology, everything. But we still depend, we still get bothered by what, a foreign Western media title would say. And sometimes you have to push back, and you have to create those media titles domestically, so that your narrative and your story is being told.
Well, that's being done in China. It's just that it's called propaganda.
Yeah, it is called. No, it is called.
Well, by the state, I guess, but then
No, I mean
locally.
It's not that. I mean, recently, I don't know if you followed it, but Bloomberg had a story about Singapore's dirty money problem. Whatever. That headline has been changed.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
So because we are letting a foreign media title.
Yeah.
Define us as like the first draft of history. If they kind of say it. I think there has to be more Asian journalists and Asian media titles.
Yeah.
To flip the balance.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that, because actually that was one of the things that I felt most compelling about, like, I guess, me being a journalist here in Singapore and in Asia, because my first job was actually at CNA, as you would know, so Channel News Asia. Back then, the motto, or like the kind of brand title, was telling the Asian perspectives, and telling the Asian perspective, which at that point of time is something that I still carry with me till today. And actually, it was the one thing that even before I joined DSA, when I was looking, like, job hunting, I knew I wanted to do business journalism, I knew I wanted to do news, and I knew I wanted to tell Asian stories, because I really, really felt that there was such a great opportunity for people in Asia to be able to kind of communicate their own narrative, Unfortunately, the media landscape, as you would know, still continues to be dominated by the main Western publications.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying that it's bad. In fact, I think they do like phenomenal work, but I still think that there's a lot of room for us to occupy.
It's not about good and bad. It's
Yeah.
about balance.
Yeah.
That's why I like Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
Or Al Arabiya in Dubai. Or the because those are good examples of independent media titles or government-backed media titles, which give a kind of a counterbalance. That counterbalance is very important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we rely. I mean, even in the startup world and things that you monitor, how many reporters does TechCrunch have in the whole of Asia?
Yeah. Well, now it's even fewer.
Now it's zero. It used to be what's her name sitting in Taipei.
Yeah.
And for that. So, but everybody wants to be on that. So that power dynamic is, is insane.
But also because I think the media industry is just going through so much, right? Like, I'm sure you saw all the layoffs that would just happened earlier this year, and every year, like the attrition of news outlets is just getting higher and higher. So there are fewer and fewer news outlets available. And of course, if there are fewer news outlets, then there are few journalists who will have jobs. So they have to freelance, which, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, you can launch your own like Substack or whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can, but is it sustainable for a freelancer to work on it full time? I really don't think it is, because ultimately a lot of journalists are still generalists, and if you do a Substack, what you're eventually competing with is you're competing with people who are, let's say in my space, VCs. You're competing with the VCs themselves, who are also doing their own Substacks, and they're like producing way better content. They have a lot of intel, they speak to the right people, so it's really, really hard to kind of I think there needs to be unfortunately more space for new independent outlets that come about, so that there's still a space for independent journalism in the world. It's not an Asian thing, it's actually a global thing,
but I think independent journalism, I think if it is exclusive content, it'll do really well. I mean,
like what we do, right? Because
what you do, but also taking it a step further is like the Morning Context, which I'm an investor in. Again, along with Joji, Joji in fact introduced me to Morning Context. But I like them, the one story a day, but it's well-researched story. And I think, people will pay for that.
Yeah.
I don't think people will pay for publishing press releases.
Yeah.
Which also changes our industry.
Yeah.
Because, anybody will publish a press release.
Yeah.
But then it's about protecting the reputation and the information flow and things of our clients. So how do we keep our clients protected? any kind of attack to their this thing.
Yeah.
So, and also you need to also focus a lot on the authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times I tell my clients that don't overshare and say only what you want to say. Don't get into the bandwagon of being pressured to do something. It's
But
like
then,
that ice bucket challenge, remember?
Yeah.
Every company is
Oh,
doing ice
okay.
bucket and nobody even knows what it's about.
Yeah.
So a lot of these times people make content calendars
Yeah.
thinking that, oh, this is what we should do for this is what we should do for this event.
Yeah.
This is doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I guess virality is something that
If everybody's doing it,
important.
it's not going to be viral.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, unfortunately also we're in a day and age where, you want to kind of have ways that you can measure, how much reach you have, how much engagement you have, which I guess gives you an indicator of how well your content is performing.
Yeah, but all that is from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
But if you want to focus from a reputation perspective, that is how big your brand is trusted.
Yeah.
How much is that X factor somebody would pay for a Cathay Pacific ticket or a Singapore Airlines ticket is basically saying, oh, I trust this brand, and it's got very different touch points, right from how the crew is to check-in to all these things. So we have to look at it. Nobody goes to decides on a certain airline based on how great their newsletter was, or what their thing was. It has to be the touch points that they feel, or what that brand communicates in terms of authenticity, of alignment.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of distraction.
Yeah.
There's a lot of distraction where, hey, we need to have a social media agency or whatever, and we have to do all these things.
Yeah.
And that I don't think it gives you the best bang for the buck.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think I mean, I immediately think about the Middle East, like I can't help it. But like, when you go there, there's definitely a very strong sense of, as I mentioned earlier, just a lot of plastering, a lot of logos, yeah, I feel like maybe because the media landscape there is just not as evolved, or maybe not so free compared to some other places in the world. So maybe they haven't had the opportunity to be able to evolve their own kind of stories. So the thinking for certain corporates or brands in terms of the way that they want to communicate their stories is just, a little bit behind, I guess, Asia. I feel like maybe Asia is kind of reaching a certain turning point.
No, I'll tell you.
Or do you think, you have a different view?
I grew up in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And I worked as a journalist in Dubai, the biggest publication there. And it is one of the few markets where someone like me would get a break into being like a deputy editor of a major publication, because I don't think journalism is of high standards there. But we do have clients who are global companies from the Middle East. The market there is not for the local publication. We have to defend our clients against global publications.
Okay.
Who, because these companies are becoming big, these companies are involved themselves in global trade. There's a lot of talk about ESG and all these things.
Yeah.
So they come into crossfire with a lot of things.
Okay.
So we have to, aim our comms and things into that. Is there other than Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya in this thing, which is...
Right, you're saying aiming for a more international audience is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think with more and more businesses and things coming in, there will be much more coming in. But you should also understand that you do a lot of investigative work, right? It is very difficult to regardless of the fact that there is not much investigative journalism and things within the domestic market in the UAE or in the Middle East, things are pretty clean there. Like if you if you do something, you'll get called out.
Right.
And the punishment and things are so high.
Yeah.
It's not getting bad press.
Yeah.
You probably end up in jail and barred from that country forever.
Yeah.
That demand kind of thing is not there.
Demand for
that domestic investigative journalism.
Right. Okay.
But in a lot of other markets, in this region, in India, and things like that. I think there's a lot more investigative journalism that can be there. The other reason is that in this market and India and other thing, if you're a successful businessman, it pays to have some kind of control over the media. So they invest in media. You know, they do all these things. There's a little bit of crony capitalism. You know, there's this thing.
I can imagine the model is going to be quite similar to how, Singapore, how we see it, kind of.
Yeah.
The dynamics.
I mean, Singapore used to have so many newspapers, right?
Yeah.
Owned by.
Back then.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you go to, the Middle East now, in Saudi, the main newspapers, everything is owned by the government.
Yeah.
Government, this thing. Because it's a level playing field for business.
Yeah.
And the establishment there wants to encourage that.
Yeah.
But if you go into a scenario where every major news outlet is owned by a different business group, which is happening in India, then there's no point. I mean, sadly, there's hardly any news channel now, in India.
What do you think about the state of media in India now?
Pretty bad. Actually, in Al Jazeera, there is a documentary that had just come out last week by someone who used to work in NDTV, Srinivasan. He has done a documentary on the state of media in India. That's something that I'll put on the comments and the links. I mean, elections are in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Over 7 phases, I think, or 8 phases. And I think the media is completely bought out in India.
Yeah.
I mean, the television media.
Yeah.
I think print, there's like 1 or 2 still remaining, which are trying to be independent.
Okay.
But, government is a major advertiser.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money in elections in India. And it's very difficult to be independent. There's News Laundry, which I really like. You should check it out.
Okay.
News Laundry, and they do a critique of Indian media. It's quite good. Yeah, it's something that's really good. But
do you think people are jaded with the media in India because of how noisy it is and how?
It's not noisy, right? I mean, to be honest with you, it's just that it's pretty much one-sided.
Okay.
And nobody wants to take another side because government in power is so powerful. So other than the southern states, I don't think there is anything. Yeah.
Well, that's because you're from the south.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who are BJP supporters.
Yeah. I mean, there are BJP supporters in the south as well, but they don't come to power in the south because people, I think, are more self-aware.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit smarter.
I didn't say that. Okay.
Yeah. But I think it's the north-south divide is a lot different. And the media there is not self-sufficient. All the media owners have other businesses, or they depend on political patronage to have their events and all these things. So, it's going to be an interesting election. So let's see.
Yeah, coming soon, I think.
Yeah, it'll start in a week's time.
Okay.
And then it'll go on.
I think they already started. People are already beginning to kind of
submit their nomination.
Yeah.
I think the first election date is around next week. And then the last date.
But everyone kind of knows like what's going to happen somehow.
Everybody says the BJP is going to win.
Yeah.
But it's going to be mostly in the north.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning in the south.
Maybe
1 or 2 seats. I mean, let's see. But maybe 1. But it's I'm from Kerala, right?
Yeah.
Kerala has never elected a BJP this thing. But they might pick up 1 or 2. You never know. But it's just that the media is very controlled by this thing. The last election the date is, I think, on the 1st of June. So we'll know the results on the 4th of June. So it's a
lot of vote counting to do.
Yeah, it's like 600, 700 million people voting. Previous years, I used to go and vote.
Oh, and now?
And this year, I might not go.
You still can vote from Singapore, right?
No.
Oh,
you have
can't?
to go there. You have to go there.
Oh.
It's electronic, but you have to press the button.
Oh, it's electronic?
Yeah. So in my house, in my native village,
yeah,
there's my mom and me in the same house who are still Indian citizens. My sisters and all are Australians. So I used to vote to cancel out her vote because she's a big Congress supporter.
Okay.
And I would vote for the left.
Okay.
So we balance out. So this year
Net
she's in
zero.
Australia, net zero. But this year she's in Australia, so it doesn't make any big difference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so let's see. And what are you working on now?
what am I working on now? Still writing about VCs and startups and the usual deal making. It's very slow now. The market has slowed down a lot.
Yeah. I think this is good actually. I think that a lot of the VCs are holding back. A lot of the, it's a cleansing period for,
it's a cleansing, definitely. Is deep,
a lot of startups which were just.
But it's also kind of like the first crisis downturn for every like local VC and startup. So I think like a lot of.
But that's good for you, right?
Soul searching for a lot of VCs.
You'll have a lot of stories and tips coming in.
I mean, yeah, it comes in, but it's also stuff that you can't just write because,
You can't write stuff which people say.
Yeah, you can, but I mean, it's investigative work takes actually a lot of time. It's not like by the time it comes to you, like it actually a lot of work or weeks and months of work had actually gone into that piece of investigation. So, a lot of startups are in trouble. That bit we know. Board members are also figuring out how to deal with the dynamics and their portfolio not performing. So
but it's a nice time to make changes and things, because everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
So it could be, but it's also what we have noticed is people going silent.
Oh yeah. Even me,
so...
like nobody wants to talk to me anymore. Like, not a good sign.
They must be having good PR agencies telling them to be quiet.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like the standard for most of them now. I mean, there is stuff that's still happening. It's interesting. I mean, I do think like the PEVC industry is going through a very interesting change in terms of the step in maturity, I would say. It's definitely more diverse than when I started and more sophisticated also. Yeah, people are thinking very differently about the way that they allocate capital. But for the startups itself, of course, I guess some painful lessons will have to be learned. I mean, we're already seeing some of them, right? Like, CEOs getting replaced by their own investors.
I was shocked by Baiju.
Yeah.
Baiju in India. They were like, a few years ago, they were like celebrated like the next big thing. And, I mean, not just the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And now he's just, he can't even come back to India. I think he's absconding or something.
I mean, that's happened to a lot of VC startups, right? So I think it's like a similar story. You see that across the board.
A lot of these startups and stuff, they are registered here in Singapore.
Yeah.
So it's be quite interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
But what do you think this podcast series should be called?
I don't know.
I last night I thought of a lot of names.
Okay.
But then today morning I realized they're all taken. And I thought of them because I've seen them.
What was taken?
There's one called Unfiltered.
Okay.
Which is good. That's
I think
what I want to do.
I know that podcast, yes.
Yeah. No, there's one in India as well. Unfiltered
okay.
by Sandesh or something.
Okay.
And he's quite good. Very entertaining.
Yeah.
Then there's one in, I thought it was like, I call it Loose Talk. Because loose also means crazy. And I was like, that's the kind of thing that will be great. But today morning, I realized where I got the name from. It is from an existing YouTube channel, which is in Malayalam.
Okay.
Where this guy just talks about political conspiracy and things.
Okay.
So I was like, no, that doesn't work. But so, I mean, it is going to go in my personal YouTube channel. So the good thing is it's already got 2,000 subscribers who are quite vocal and just wants to see stuff that I do. So I think this is the most intellectual thing they will come across since I have started. But other than that,
I get to see the serious side of Jacob now.
This is the serious side of Jacob.
Serious. You said the other videos were like not serious, right?
Yeah. It was attempts at being serious, but I think it's. I mean, thank you for your time. Thanks for coming, and I don't think I think my team has overdone it with the quality and the camera work and things.
Yeah.
I was hoping that it'll be a minimalist setup that I can take it with me, because I don't want to do like these talks over Zoom.
Yeah.
I would either do it in this office.
Yeah.
Or I would do it when I'm traveling. I would try to do it with my phone or things. But so it's a good way to start the series. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, that's good. And I think we've been catching up in different parts of the world. It's finally good to have
one in Singapore.
One here in Singapore. Yeah, it's good. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.